Hey guys, it's Jonathan here from PlayGuitar.com. Head on over and check it out. Lots of great guitar lessons over there for you. Today I've got a lesson that's a little bit more advanced. I'm going to probably skip over a lot of subjects without going into them in too much detail, but I wanted to give you something for the people that are a little bit more advanced. And so what we're going to talk about is some thirds in the key of D. And I love using thirds and other things like that when I'm playing open chords on the acoustic. When you're soloing around on electric, then you're not tied so much to open chords perhaps, and you can just do whatever. But I love picking a topic and then trying to integrate it with how I can use open chords, because that's where I do a lot of my playing on the acoustic. And it's good to kind of see how the whole thing fits together, so you can improvise elsewhere on the neck, even in the middle of while you're playing open chords. So we've got D. So in the key of D major, what scale patterns do we have access to? And if you're not familiar with your scale patterns, head on over to PlayGuitar.com, because that's what that whole course is all about, and we'll really get you tuned up on your scale patterns. But in the key of D major, we've got, of course, our D major scale, which starts up here on the 10th fret. We've got our B minor scale on the 7th fret. And, of course, I'm talking about diatonic scales here. And then we can also apply those scales elsewhere, too, if we want. Those are root 6 scales, right? They come off the 6th string, the root note of those scales. But we could also take the B minor scale and apply it to the B here on the 5th string, and that's the scale pattern that we get as a result. It's the same scale pattern, we're just moving it and applying it to this new root note, and I talk about that in the GuitarScalePatterns.com course. But so that's handy because it gives us a scale pattern that we can use right here, integrated with the chords that we're playing, right? An open D major chord, for instance. Okay, those are notes that come right out of that scale pattern. So if we look at all three of those patterns, because with those three patterns we can really cover the fretboard, right? We go from 2nd fret to the 5th fret with that pattern I just mentioned, the root 5 minor pattern. And then we've got, we start our pattern again here at the 7th fret. So really we've just got 2 frets in between there. And then, of course, we got another pattern here starting from the 10th fret, which covers the 9th to the 12th frets. And then we start over that other root 5 pattern again from the 14th fret. So you keep on going, and there's really no interruption. As long as you know how to move between the patterns, you're great. So using those 3 patterns, I wanted to look at some thirds just off of the 2nd and 3rd strings. So first off, a minor third on the 2nd and 3rd strings is going to look like that right there. Okay, I'm on the 4th fret of the 3rd string and the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. That's a minor third. So if you kind of charted all this out on a piece of paper, you'd end up with those sets of thirds there, right? And so I did say minor third earlier on, right? That's a minor third, because a major third on the 2nd and 3rd strings is simply 2 fingers on the same fret. That's a major third pattern anywhere you go on the 2nd and 3rd strings, right? Those are all major thirds. They're not in the same key, but they're major thirds. And if we go, fingers kitty corner to each other, then that's a minor third pattern on the 2nd and 3rd strings. Those are all minor thirds. So if you look and you apply it to the chords and the thirds that are supposed to be in that scale, or just take it straight out of the scale patterns, if you chart it all out on a piece of paper, you'll see immediately what I mean. We're just taking those sets of thirds off of the second and third strings from all those scale patterns. But you end up with a lot of cool things that you can do, and you can just use those thirds however you want in between your open chords. Oops. So sorry, I'm not going to dig into detail on exact fingerings for all that, but basically we've got minor third. Remember I showed you the pattern, right? We've got a major third here starting on the 2nd fret, then we've got a minor third next, and then another minor third, and then a major third on the 7th fret, and then minor third, major third. Now you can see all that if you chart it all out, and I'm encouraging you to chart it out because you'll learn a lot by actually going through and writing things out sometimes, and you'll see it in a whole different way rather than if I just tell you fingerings and stuff like that. So it'll do you a lot of good to spend the extra 10 minutes and write it out. But there you have it, really briefly. Hopefully it gives you something that you can play around with. Basically all I was doing in that little example was just completely ad lib, grabbing some thirds out of those scale patterns and throwing them in between my chords. Now, little tip for you. If you want some thirds that are going to sound really good, then like when I went to that, when I was working off of the G major there, I went up here to this one. And that there, it comes straight out of the D major chord. D is a 5th of G, so that's going to sound good, right? So you can, by the way, that there, it's a D major triad, comes straight out of the bottom end of a root 6 bar chord, D major, right? So have a look at how those thirds actually line up because they're in all your bar chords. Take a look at how the bar chords are all line up in the key of D major. There you got D, B minor, right? And what else do we got? We got E minor. So there's a third. That's one of the thirds we're using. D major, right there, right? G major. There's our major third right there. And so on and so forth. You can apply that to all your bar chords, and you can see that those thirds are in all the bar chords if you look at the chord scale. So I realize this is probably going over a bunch of your heads, and it's more advanced than most of the lessons. I kind of break them down a little bit more, but hopefully that gives you something to work on if you're more advanced. And if you're not quite at that level, then, you know, chart it all out and bring yourself to that level because it's definitely doable. And head on over, check out PlayGuitar.com because there I do take the time and I break it down slow and teach you all these scale patterns and how they all relate together. So have a great day. It's Jonathan here from GuitarTipsWeekly.com. We'll see you again next time.